On this episode of Grumpy Monkey Garage, we're going to continue our restoration project, the old 95 K1500. And also kind of give some tips about when you buy a restoration project, what are the first things you should do. So let's get right into it and get started. Okay, so on a previous episode, which you can see here, we went and found, purchased, and drove home this sketchy Wasp mobile, which has since been named Allie. So this is Allie here. We're gonna reach in here and pop the hood, of course. So a minute ago, we tried to pull it in and wouldn't come out of park again. It happened when we were recovering the vehicle as well. Let go, my ego. All right. Sometimes these OBSs, they get stuck. You want to pull it, it won't pop all the way, and then you hit down right in the middle a couple of times, you'll feel it kind of release, and then there you go. So there's the magic trick. You just hit right around here. You can tell the last guy was doing it a lot because he was tearing up the paint doing it, but I try to open palm it, not, you know, trying to be too rough with it, basically. All right. Also, when we were trying to pull it in, it wouldn't come out of park. There's a brake and shift release thing. It's like a brake switch, but it's a whole assembly that does your shift release. It will disable your cruise control. It has all of that in one switch underneath the dash there. This one is bad. If you need to get out of park and you can't because it won't do it, what you can do is you can disable the battery with your emergency 8mm that you keep around because you own an OBS. Disconnect the negative, go in there, turn the key on because there's no power now. You can hit the brake and pull it into neutral, set your parking brake so it doesn't roll away. Come back out under the hood, hook up the cable. Now it'll start because they'll start in neutral and you can drive it in. So that's what we had to do, but we got it. It's in here. We're gonna replace that eventually, but not today. Today we're gonna talk about where you should start. So all that to be said, here's our truck. I am actually kind of glad I bought a running one because it's a lot less work and it gives me an opportunity to talk about when you were looking for a project car or a restoration subject, you should spend more money and buy one that doesn't suck. A lot of people like me will buy the worst examples of vehicles because we have the skill set, or we pay the people who have the skill set to fix these things, and it makes it a whole lot cheaper on the output. But for the average person, if you're only gonna do one restoration, you want one old truck, you want one C10, K10, 1500, a C1500, whatever you want, you should buy a good example of it if it's the first time you're doing this. If you're just getting into it, buy one that runs, buy one that drives and just needs work. This one needs a ton of work, but it's a really clean, good example of a Chevy 1500. This is the one I would recommend somebody buy. It needs a door handle, it needs a bunch of other stuff, and we're gonna do an inspection in this video here and talk about what it needs and why and about how much that stuff's gonna cost. So you have an idea of what you're looking at. But yeah, so we accidentally bought one of the best K1500s when usually, as you know on this channel, we buy the worst. And that's why you should look for the stuff that's the best if you're doing it for the first time, because it's gonna be less work for you. You'll be able to accomplish it. It'll make more sense. And you won't be starting out with finding out you need an engine or a transmission, some overwhelmingly scary thing to a new person, which to me, I'm like, oh, it's a bad transmission. I just hear a cheaper price. I'm not scared. So, all right, so the things we need to go over on this one is condition. When we start an inspection, we're just gonna be looking around for stuff generally. We get to the suspension, it'll get a lot more interesting, but under the hood, there's not a lot to see here on this 95, simply because it's a 95. There's no ECM with 10,000 gasoline direct injection injectors. There's no nonsense going on under here. So when we look under here, we're gonna check things like the belt, and the belt appears to be okay. Now there was an old belt in the back seat, so I imagine maybe the family member that was working on this might have changed the belt as well. Looks like our hose replacement has come in as well, because there's a Napa hose up here, so that's a clue that somebody was working on this not too long ago, because I could still read that part number. Brake booster has some sort of rebuild sticker on it and does work, so that's a little bit interesting. So maybe somebody's already handled that. Of course, we do know the brakes sucked, because as you saw in the first video, we kind of lost the ability to stop on the way home. But really, when we noticed at the gas station the pads were low, we probably should have stopped right there and fixed them sooner rather than driving another hour and waiting for them to completely fail. But you know, we did what we did. All right, so things we might need to do. Let's check the fluids. Basic fluid checkup, start with your oil. Now, as we found out up there in the yard, this stuff right here is like straight up dinosaur juice, La Brea tar pits. It's black, like it's dark, dark black, like straight up crude oil. It's not even a regular oil color anymore. It's just straight to black, so that's not necessarily good. Want to make sure that we and get that changed. Now when we were adding oil, while we're on the subject of oil, at that gas station I noticed, because I took the oil cap off, there's a ton of sludge in here. You can see on the cap it's better. There's a bunch of sludge in here. It's really gunked up. And I'm gonna see if I can get a good light for you down into this hole here. Okay, so that's a bunch of sludge. We're gonna be getting rid of that today, or at least some of it. There's a bunch of different opinions on the internet about sludge. Some people say leave it, just change your oil regularly, it'll be fine. I'm gonna take a medium approach where I'm not gonna do a whole engine flush or anything because this thing is ancient, but what I am gonna do is I'm gonna put a little bit of seafoam like cleaner in there, run it with a clean oil filter, then drain it, change the oil filter again, and hopefully that gets a bunch of the big stuff out, and then I'll just change the oil every 3,000 miles after that. Now I did say 3,000 miles. You should learn your different engine options. I had to learn a few things myself. The newer Chevrolets, 96 to 99 with the 350, have roller cams. So they have little rollers on the bottom of their lifters, and they would last a whole lot longer on the Vortex series. Whereas these early generation, some people are still calling these Vortex. I don't know which one's correct, but on the early ones, 95 to 1987 is also TBI as well. These TBI engines that are not the Vortex variety, they don't have the spider injection setup and all. They were flat tapped cam. Now what that means is when we do this oil change, we're gonna have to add a special additive back in it to avoid tearing up the cam. It's ZEEP, ZDDP. I don't know, I'll show you the bottle of the liquefied dinosaurs we put in here, and you'll see what I'm talking about. But basically, the hydraulic roller cam with the newer trucks, they don't need the special oil additive. You can just run regular old oil or even synthetic oil and not have too much trouble. On these, you really have to pay attention. And with that flat tapped cam, you do get a little bit more debris, so we're gonna change the oil every 3,000 miles. I've heard people say 5,000. I've heard people say, I run this fancy pants oil, I go 10,000 miles. I'm gonna do 3 on regular oil with the ZDD, ZEEP, whatever it is, additive, and that should help out. So that's gonna be what we're handling with oil today, and I will show you and walk you through that process if you have the same situation. Now, it's not horribly sludged up. As you saw, you can still read some of the part number down inside the engine there, but there is a bunch of gunk in there, so I want to get it out, especially since the oil is so dark. So that's why we're doing the seafoam flush. Just kind of gonna run it through, and then, well, I guess that's literally a flush. We're like flushing the toilet on all the goo. Anyway, talking about this belt. So this belt here is fine, and you can tell because of the way that it is, but in case you can't tell because of the way that it is, this belt here has no cracking, and it still has nice, good tension. It doesn't squeal or anything. Here's an example of a bad belt here. Now this one has tons of cracks, and this was old, very old, so it's got cracks all over the place. These grooves are supposed to be like this, but any of these sideways perpendicular grooves here, these are not good. So these are when it starts to crack and wear, and these are bad. So I'm glad we had this bad belt, which was in the back seat, to kind of explain the difference between a really old wore out belt. If the car sat outside for a long time and hasn't been used, you'll get these really ancient cracks in the belt, and they just kind of go to hell after that. So you really want to make sure that you check that and go ahead and get that replaced. It's very simple, but we don't have to do that on this one because the previous person did it for us. Other fluids to check. Let me get rid of this ancient belt. We're going to do the right thing since we bought a pickup truck and use the bed as a trash can like I do with all my other trucks. There we go. All right, coolant. So engine needs several fluids to run properly. Oil, obviously, lubrication to prevent things from breaking. Coolant to prevent it from running too hot and running at a stable temperature. Now up there, we opened this and found there was wasps and all kinds of other things in here, but there was not coolant. So since it's been sitting in the yard for a week or two, or however long it is, it's still full, and it's got green coolant. Thank you. I'm so happy there's green in here. So from factory, some of these old GMs would have Dex Cool in them, which is an orangish color coolant. So if you open the lid and it's an orangey color, you're screwed because Dex Cool would eat intake gaskets. It would sludge stuff up. There's lots of people here. Here's some forums complaining about Dex Cool. They call it Dex Kill. It would cause all kinds of issues in these engines. I'm not sure. I've seen Dex Cool go a long time and not cause any trouble. I've seen green stuff gum up. I don't really care. The reason I'm excited to see the green stuff is it's a hell of a lot cheaper. Also, it's still full, so maybe they just didn't fill it all the way up when they replaced the heater hose there, but it's holding fluid, so I don't have to deal with it, and it looks nice and clean, and it's green, so we're good to go. We did top it off with a little bit of garden hose, so maybe before the first freeze, we'll flush it out. That's one less thing I have to do right now, so I'm really happy about that. So we need to do that. Let's check the transmission fluid. Now, oil and coolant is all you need for your engine. You don't need a whole lot of any other fluids. It's literally just keep it from overheating, keep it from running dry with no lubrication. So you got two fluids, very simple, on something old like this. Transmission fluid, before I pull this out, we're looking for a nice red color with no purpley debris on the stick. Let's see what we have. Oh yeah, she's nice and pink. She's got some debris in there, but it's definitely not horrible. This is the 4L60E transmission, which you can see my review on them in some other videos I did on the gray silver Chevy. My hand is relatively clean. Let's smear some of this on there. All right, so you see how we have like a nice gray line now? That's bad. So that's bad. That's bad, that's bad, that's bad. Remember those dudes from Shrek that like, Shrek and Fiona are walking through the woods? And this is just a little side commentary here, just because I just thought of this and watched my channel, so I'm gonna talk on it. They're walking through the woods back to the castle with like Farquaad and stuff, and like Robin Hood and the Merry Men attack, and they like go into dance, and they're like, this is bad, this is bad, this is bad. I'm gonna try and find the scene, put it right here for you, unless it's copyrighted or something, but hopefully it's not, because that's funny. But yes, that's bad. So the gray material is clutch packs that have squeezed together, they've rubbed stuff off, and now it's floating around the pan. So gray is bad, but this thing drove fine, and there is conflicting information. Here's some of it. If you change old transmission fluid, oh God, it's gonna immediately start slipping. I've done it before and I've had pretty good luck. That being said, my silver Silverado that I restored is one of the first vehicles I ever restored. Its transmission did go bad, but I have a feeling it's because I was pulling a Ram 2500 around with it. I was probably over the weight limit, but we're gonna leave that one alone for now. So we're gonna be dealing with the oil, and we're gonna be dealing with some axle fluids. We'll get to that when we get to the suspension. But let's go ahead and start with some engine work. Another thing you can check, your engine needs to breathe. So you need the facts. We did a video covering the facts, fuel, air compression, timing, and spark. We'll link that below as well. We're gonna check the air filter. Well, there's a bunch of rat turds on there. So actually we're gonna get the air gun and blow all the rat turds off because I don't wanna touch that. Now, it's not like you're detailing it, fella. You're just trying to get all the things that are gonna fall into the intake when you take it off. You want those out of here. There's some hay, some old spider eggs. Found that homework I never turned in second grade. Don't know how it got 9 counties away to people I never knew, but you know, whatever. All right, under here, if you're a younger fella watching this video, you might need to know this, but old vehicles didn't have fuel injectors on the manifold. They had carburetors really long time ago. Careful before you click off and start commenting. I know this is TBI, fellers. Old timers, this is for the young guys. You settle down. There was a time in the 90s and some vehicles in the 80s, like Ford, that they were changing their minds between, hey, carburation isn't fuel efficient enough, and we need to do something about it. And GM's solution was this, TBI, which is set up like the old carburetors were, where it's centralized in the middle of the V8 manifold here. But it doesn't have as much BS as a carburetor does. It's a little bit easier to understand, in my opinion, being a younger fella myself. The old timers thought it was great because it didn't have the fancy fuel injection stuff that the Fords did. Really, it's just you need to know what you're buying, know the type of system it is, so you know what to look for, know how to work on it. But I like these because these are very retro. You still have the old dog dish, which I'm gonna now, it's like opening a sealed sarcophagus. Look at this shit. Okay, all right. There's like a whole mouse nest in there. Okay, we're gonna ignore that. That looks like it's been on fire a time or two, so we're just gonna pretend that's fine. Oh, it smells great. Oh, yeah. Oh, that's a 0 out of 10. Okay, I'm gonna lift that out, and we're gonna try really hard not to throw any of this like debris down the intake hole. Yep, right over the edge you go. Yep, okay, so a giant lump of like mouse house just went for a ride. We're just gonna, we'll brush that out when we get the truck out of the shop. Now, you know what, we're just gonna get a new one. This is it's right in the trash where it belongs. That's disgusting. And we're gonna take this up. Let go. I'm gonna blow this out with the air gun and come back with a fresh filter, and then we'll get over what all these parts here are that I'm gonna discuss. And here's the rest of the mouse house. Oh yeah, Templeton's gonna be pissed. All right, so back here we got our distributor, right? controls our timing, has all our spark plug wires. These are our injectors right here. So you got one injector for that bank and one injector for this bank, and you know, they squirt fuel literally directly into the intake manifold, just like an old carburetor would, but instead of using vacuum power like a carburetor, they have these little electric switches on them with a little magnet and a ball. I'll explain how a fuel injector works in a different video. So if you're looking for that, it'll probably be in our basic series soon. Yeah, there's your injection, there's your ignition. So ignition is your spark, this is your fuel, and then of course fuel lines go back to a pump. But very, very simple system, very reliable, and that's why I like these trucks. They don't have a whole lot of nonsense going on under the hood. A few vacuum lines, but not a mess. It's not a spider web under here like they were back in the 80s on the like S10s in the 80s. Jesus Christ. Did you fit enough vacuum lines in there? I think you left 3 of them back at the factory. Better add 17 more. All right, put that back, this back, and this little hose under here that comes off the exhaust. That's the intake heater for when it's cold out, so make sure you hook that up because we are going into fall here. Now we're not putting the Mouse House Special back. I did the right thing before we started and went down to the parts store and bought the cheapest air filter I could find. I would love a filter sponsor if you guys are out there and you're like, hey, because right now I just use whatever the cheapest is, and sometimes it works, sometimes it does not. So we're good. All right, so next step, we're gonna make the engine a little bit cleaner. And you have options for what you're gonna do. I like to do this option. We have a ding dong filter here, just a regular old cheapo oil filter. We're gonna take the original oil filter off. We're gonna replace it with this. Now this is a clean, brand new filter. It's gonna catch lots of debris. So we're gonna put that on there to catch the debris. Then we're gonna add this seafoam metal treatment. It's so fancy. Now, you can use all kinds of different ones. I'm not sponsored, so if you're a Marva Mystery Oil gal, you go do that. But this one was on sale, and this is a budget build, so sale is what we're going for. This one says it cleans carb, fuel, all kinds of crap, but we're not going for that part. You can dump this right in your gas tank, and it does, you know, the things. We're gonna put it right into our engine, right in the crankcase, and it says that it will quiet noisy lifters, clean deposits, that's what we're hoping for. Add lubricity to fuel, don't really care. Lube upper cylinders, we want that. De-ice and anti-gel. Well, we're looking for anti-gel of the sludge variety, and we're looking for cleaning deposits. So we really only need 2 of these things, but we're gonna add this. First, we're gonna get the old oil filter off, put the ding dong filter on. Then when we're done, we're gonna drain all the engine oil. We're gonna put on a really good quality filter. So I have a factory Chevrolet oil filter. She's of the AC Delca variety. She's nice and pretty. GM genuine right there. So there you go. Putting a factory Chevrolet filter back on it, and that will help us filter the rest of the gunk as I drive the truck. It'll just catch all those deposits, which is what an oil filter's for anyway. Not that this one wouldn't do a bad job. I just felt like splurging the extra $3 and getting a really high-end filter. So that's what we're gonna do. One more thing. Remember when I said that we needed some sort of fancy additive? It's ZDDP. I was correct. It was ZDD, not ZEEP. ZDDP, that is the stuff that's going to help us with our flat tappet cam. This is a STP oil treatment. This is the cheapest one I found that has the ZDDP in it. If you know of a better one, great, let me know. But this is the one that is the cheapest around here that I found. And it works pretty good because I haven't blown up one of these yet with a flat tappet, and we've owned quite a few. So we're just going to keep on keeping on, you know? So we'll add this when we're done. But we're going to add the seafoam first, change the oil filter, and let's get started. Need a drain pan, I guess. Let's go find one. Filter's out. So we put the new filter in there to catch all the goo that we're about to create. We're gonna just undo this here. We're just gonna add the whole thing right into the crankcase. There it goes. Glug, 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 glug. Now hopefully a whole bunch of crap comes out when we change the oil here in a few minutes. That's all we had to do there. Now it probably has instructions on how much you should add and all that kind of good stuff, but I'm gonna be real with you. This engine is gross, so we're just gonna go with all of it. That's how much we're gonna add. I just noticed there's another wasp nest over here. I'm gonna delete that real quick. Look at them all, man. Wasp nest everywhere. Yeet. Wasp nest delete. All right, let's crank this noisy sucker up, let her idle for about 15-20 minutes, and then drain the oil. Let's get to it. Now the next step in our recipe for engine that's not full of poop is we're going to add the ZDDP additive. You can pick whatever flavor you like if you have a flat tappet can, but I do recommend it. Yeah, we're just going to open this and use a prying method because you don't want this aluminum foil crap getting all up in your business and down into your engine. So you want to make sure you remove it all. It's very important. So we're going to add the really thick goop first. You want to get some footage of this because, oh yeah, does anybody else want pancakes right now? I don't know why, but like, yeah, we gotta wait a minute. It's gotta go down the funnel. Oh yeah. Well, there's another reason you wanted to warm it up. You warm it up, one, so the seafoam can get through the engine or Marvel Mister or whatever fancy cleaner you want to go with. It needs to get around in there, so you got to kind of rev it and run it for about 15 minutes to cook it, and then we're changing the oil again here, and we're going to add this stuff first. Now, because it's nice and hot inside the engine, it's going to take this and run it straight down in there as fast as possible. And then when we re-crank it, this is the first stuff that's going to hit the oil pump and really start lubricating things. So that's why we're putting this in there first. Some guys will disagree. I've heard a lot. I'm trying to do it right, fellers. So, like, at least I did some research. All right. Trash can truck bed. Activate. There we go. All right. Now, we're going to take our mystery flavor oil here. It's not really a mystery. It's just that the stuff that sits outside is stuff we don't use often. This is a synthetic blend oil. It's very cheap. It's very affordable. If you have an old car like this and you want to run a synthetic and not, you know, just conventional, this is what you should buy. The cheapest synthetic blend you can find. Oh. Now it takes 5 quarts. So we're going to add 4.5 of this because the little ZEEP bottle is a half a quart. But we'll always consult the stick because that's the accurate number there. We might end up adding 5.5. Not really sure. We are running a 530 because that's what the cap says, and with this low mileage, I don't believe it needs anything thicker, so we'll see what happens. Hopefully nothing really bad. We don't like really bad stuff. I am 3 for 3 so far. I have made it, well, I mean, it's a huge bed. See my video complaining about short beds, but I like long bed trucks. This is considered a short bed by 95 standards, but still 6.5 foot. Hey. And this last one here, we're going to only add half a quart. To make a total of 5 quarts, we'll check the stick, and we'll crank it, check for leaks, and we'll be good to go. Now, if you want more information on doing oil changes, if you're just getting into this hobby and want to restore old crap like this, or if you're wanting to get into the business of auto repair, consult our The Basics series, which has some basic repairs like tire rotations, oil changes, and such like that. But until such time, I'm going to assume you know what you're doing, kind of. This one we're only adding half, so luckily there's a little dipstick bar thingy on the side here. Level indicator, I suppose, would be more accurate. And there's half a quart right there. All right, dipstick. Give it the old wiping stick. It's nice and full. It's also a nice golden color now instead of a burnt butthole color. All right, let's give it the old cranky, check for leaks, and should be done with our engine-related filters and such. Oh, there's a big old spider. No, thank you. All right, cranking in 3, 2, 1. Giant spider, had to kill him. All right. Look underneath for leaks. I don't see any. So we're good to go. All right. She's running. She's got good oil pressure. I guess this is the part we find out if we fix anything, but it's got clean oil, so we'll just do regular oil changes from here on out, and it should live a long time. Now to figure out what's wrong with the suspension. Let me turn this off so you can hear me. All right, so when we were on the road coming back from far away where we bought this thing, we noticed these tires were ancient and crappy. So we're gonna order a set of tires for this. I don't know if I'm gonna go with mud tires or not. I'd really like to, because I'd like to use the 4-wheel drive, but they're not really practical for anything else, and they don't get that great of gas mileage. So I haven't decided what I'm gonna do yet, but I do have street tires already here for a different truck that I could put on here. Other thing, we noticed that the suspension is kind of collapsed, so you can look at some footage here from the first video that it needs everything. So rather than go through the tedious process of breaking down this, that, and the other, we're going to break it into sequences. So today was evaluating the plan, and the next video we do, we're going to be doing pretty much all of the suspension on this generation truck. We'll make that a single video so that if you're just doing the suspension on one of these, you can just find that segment. But yes, this thing is going to need upper ball joints. The lower ball joints will go okay, but we're going to replace them anyway because they're from 1995. Sway bar end links, control arm bushings. We're going to do wheel bearings if they're packable. I don't think these are. The 4-wheel drives, I think they bolt off as a hub, so we'll just leave those alone if they're not bad. We'll show you how to check for that. Idler and all that stuff, we'll check that when we get to the suspension, and we'll be changing the diff fluids, front, rear, and the transfer case fluid as well. And that will be all the fluids on this truck. Ultimately, when you get a project like this and you're thinking about what am I going to do with this restoration, have a goal and realistically set how you're going to get there. So for me, I have pretty much a goal. I want it to be reliable in as stock form as it can. The only thing that I'm hung up on is street or mud tires. So maybe you can help me out and put a little comment down in the comment box and let me know what you think I should go with. We might do street tires first and compare street versus mud off-road and see how much bang you get for your buck, because mud tires are more and then you lose gas mileage with it. Or maybe we can test and see how does it actually affect it. How much gas mileage do you really lose with mud tires on an old truck like this? They're not exactly a Prius. They're not fuel efficient at all. So if you're looking for an option, want to know how badly affected it, maybe we can turn that into a video series. But for now, we've got the engine cleaned out of sludge. We've performed a pretty good oil change. We've changed the air filter. We've done a full inspection. It doesn't look like it needs anything engine related. It's not leaking anything. So I think we're done for here. Tune in next time for the suspension repairs on this vehicle, and the door handles, and well, just about everything on this truck needs to be repaired except an engine and transmission. So there'll be some footage coming up here soon. I'm excited. Let me know about the tire decision in the comments, and let me know if you like this kind of video, because then we'll do some more of them. We'll see you next time on Grumpy Monkey Garage.